Yo, this is Eric Burton of the Black Pumas, and you're listening to the Jim on Base Show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Jim on Bass Show. For today's very special guest, we have on a lead singer of one of my favorite bands. This band has been nominated at the Grammys for categories like Best New Artist, Album of the Year, and Best Rock Performance. They hail from Austin, Texas, and are about to begin a world tour for their brand new album, Chronicles of the Diamond. Please welcome the great Eric Burton. Eric, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. This is really cool.
Yeah, excited to have you on the show. And one of the things I noticed, you got rid of the nose ring. You kind of swap it in and out, right?
Actually, the nose ring ripped through my septum
Wow.
one night while I was sleeping. So I won't have a nose ring for a second here.
Yeah, you got to let the septum grow back, I guess.
Yeah.
Good thing you didn't
Late
have it
nights
during the
hanging out with
show.
my friends. So yeah, thank God. No one wants to see that. So
Well, I got to say, you were rocking it hard on Jimmy Fallon, and life's good for me. I'm getting Jimmy Fallon guests now, so this is awesome.
super cool. I'm super happy to be here. I mean, we've only done Fallon twice, so it's a new thing for us too.
Well, this is a Zoom, obviously, so I'm happy to say I can see you really good. I saw you in Tempe, Arizona, a few years back, and I had to climb up a fence to get a good view. It was at the MLB Extra Innings Festival, so it's great to see you.
Dude, that's awesome. So you snuck into the show?
Oh no, we were there, but it was so packed that I had to. Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Well, your tour just kicked off though, and I know it started off in your hometown area, right, with a sold out residency, and now you're kind of on a short break for the holidays, right?
That's right. Yeah, and it was crazy because I believe I had gotten COVID during that run, so it was really we hadn't been on the stage for about a year or so, and that was a tough one. While it was really really fun. So, but we're super happy to be back, and I feel great now.
Yeah, I heard you guys like the whole band got COVID, right? Like pretty much everyone. So you're feeling good now, or?
Yeah, definitely. The entire band got COVID. I ended up getting like a steroid shot. It was kind of bonkers, but it was so nice to be back. Our hometown here, Austin, is, that super supportive, super warm. So, they kind of carried us through with their energy.
Mm, awesome. Well, where are you right now? Are you at the house or?
I'm actually at a girlfriend's apartment
Mm.
right now. So yeah, I've got the dogs. Right, she's got a dog. I've got a Dalmatian kind of running around. So if you see Nova, don't be too surprised.
Yeah, we were talking about that right before we started. I grew up with a Dalmatian, and how old is the dog? Could we see you out on walks around Austin with the Dalmatian, or?
Yeah, most definitely, man. We love to kick around the east side.
Mm.
I've got a place in North Austin and looking at getting some land in South Austin. So I'm
Wow.
kind of all over the place. And Nova is never short of energy. So we're always out and about for sure.
Yeah, that's great. Now, does Nova get to hop in the bed, or is there kind of rules for furniture? Or?
Oh man, the first 2 weeks I had her, I told myself she wasn't going to be able to, but yeah, she's definitely in the bed. She's the queen of the castle, man. It's out of control.
Now, how does it work when you go on tour? Do you get to bring the dog, or does someone kind of look after her? How does that work?
I'm gonna try this. This will be our like my first experience having a dog on tour. So, and I've been single for a long time that I hadn't planned on leaving her anywhere. But now that I'm dating and I've got a girlfriend now, and so sometimes like my girlfriend will watch her. But I'm planning on bringing her on tour for sure.
Nice.
She's a Dalmatian, which is a super energetic dog, but she's very well behaved and quite socialized for how often she was traveling with me when I first got her. So she
That's
travels
great.
very well.
Okay. And it is Christmas time, so I was wondering, are you all covered getting gifts? And do you have to get presents for the band members too, or how do you work that?
Oh man, I'm so glad that you said that because I'm the absolute worst at gift shopping for a specific like day
Mm.
of an event. So I'm supposed to like do some virtual shopping with my brother today. I have this interview with you guys, which feels really really cool. But we also have like a a listening party today
Mm.
for the new album. So I will actually maybe go do some Christmas shopping for the band after this after these messages here. So
Awesome.
yeah.
You're getting everything done today, checking all the boxes.
Gotta do it, man. Gotta do it. Can't be the guy with empty-handed, you know.
Yeah. Well, speaking of listening parties, I had to tell you, I used to kind of have my own listening parties with your first album during COVID, during the lockdown. I would do all my home workouts and just turn on some Black Pumas. So it's extra special to have you on today.
Man, we're so honored. You know, what a bizarre time to be a new band
Mm.
that's just kind of barely making it as far as a national slash international act. That was a very integral time for us. So we're just thankful to be on the other end with listeners who are actually ready to kind of palate what we have to offer. So thank you for doing that. I mean, I feel like it's the people who listened during COVID and shared with their friends during COVID that really helped us to, conclude our solidified presence. So man, that's thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know it's kind of interesting to me because you're an Austin band, but you're also a fellow California guy, right? You grew up in the San Fernando Valley.
That's right. So Austin, Texas is the hometown of Black Pumas, the project, but I was born in the San Fernando Valley and grew up between what is it? San Fernando Valley and Van Nuys and, Compton,
Mm.
Athens, like the Inland Empire, all over the
Yeah.
Inland Empire. And then in Santa Monica, just upon moving to Austin, Texas.
Wow. I know you have a brother. Do you have any other siblings, or is it you two kind of growing up?
Yeah, man, I've got the coolest fam, man. I mean, like we're super close. I've got two younger siblings, Chris and Elijah, and then I have an older sister,
Mm.
Janine, and I really feel for her in retrospect that, she was the only girl with a bunch of just rambunctious, smelly boys running around, jumping on her bed, borrowing her video games and whatnot. I'm sure it was kind of really tough for her, but uh yeah, I've got three other siblings, and I'm just super happy to look forward to Christmas. Like this will be our like
Yeah.
our first holiday at the end of the year, Christmas wise, that we will have all spent together in a really long time. So, uh, yeah, I'm feeling high on the holiday cheer here.
Yeah. Well, I know your brother sang in church, right? And so, do you have a musical family in general, or is it just kind of you two? Or
Man, so honestly, I feel like I'm the only one. I mean,
mm.
Chris just started picking up programming beats. I bought him an MPCX a few years back, and he's taken to programming beats like in a very,
Mm.
very special way, to the degree that he's also starting to write and compose his own songs, which is like really interesting to see. I've never known Chris to be a songwriter, but he's got a great voice. I think that on a hereditary basis, like we have very just expressive ways that we use our voice in our family. So it's really nice to kind of like hear that. But otherwise, I remember while my siblings are for the most part not musicians and or performers, I remember turning the video game off when we were, maybe 15, 16, 17 years old, and making Elijah, I think he was like the least inclined toward the music. So I gave him a kazoo. I gave Chris my electric guitar. I put tape where the notes were in the scale, and they joined me in front of the town that we were currently that we were staying in at the time for a performance in front of
Ah,
the community for like a fundraiser for the hospital.
wow.
And it was really cool, man. I'm glad that we turned the video games off and I got to include them. And yeah, music is very much becoming a way that I get to connect with my siblings, and so it feels really special, even though they're not as inclined as I might be. Yeah.
Well, I was wondering, does it just take a little candy to get you to sing? Because was that kind of the bribe to get you in the church choir? I heard.
Most definitely, man. I learned Chris was this was when we were really young, right? So my grandmother really encouraged us to get involved with the church that we were attending, and the choir being one of the ways to do so. Chris ended up joining first, and they had him play drums, and sometimes he would sing and play. And I noticed the older women in the church would give him candy, and that's like it's like gold when you're when you're like when you're 10 years old. That's what you go to church for. uh, but yeah, so I eventually joined, and I was singing in church for maybe 6 months. I didn't really sing in church for very long, but yeah, he still ended up with the most candy though. So yeah, so thanks.
Yeah. Are you still bringing candy on the road? Like, what's your go-to? I'm a Twix guy.
Oh man, I love Twix. I love Twix. I'm not I don't usually I'm not doing as much sweets these days, but Twix is definitely my favorite as well, between
Okay.
Twix and Snickers for sure. We used to love Skittles and Starburst, but
Okay.
yeah, Twix is a great choice.
Well, I'll have some in my pocket when I see you. Maybe I'll toss some up for like a song request or something.
Oh my goodness, dude. Please, please. If I don't eat it, someone will.
Yeah.
One of the band members will. We love the green room snacks and whatnot. I think Brendan Bond in our band, he goes really crazy for the Haribo gummy bears. So
Mm.
that was recently added to the rider. There's always gummy bears in the green room. It's kind of hilarious because I'm kind of a simple guy as far as the green room writer goes. And so, periodically you'll kind of see what other people's favorites are. And so that's always interesting to be like, oh, okay, this guy goes really crazy for gummy bears. It's kind of funny. Like his voice changes when he's like talking. And it's hilarious.
Well, when it comes to like the green room and requests, do you kind of have a rotation with the sunglasses? Because I've noticed through the years you have a very strong sunglass game. So how do you kind of rotate them in and out?
Yeah, man. I do.
Because
Man,
those
I'm
are
kind
cool
of
right there.
yeah, these are really rad. I just got these for our last run. These are from Tiffany and Co.
Okay.
So yeah, but I love Tom Ford. I love I kind of dig these, but I like the Gucci glasses
Hmm.
that kind of look like these a bit better. I feel kind of silly talking about like my favorite sunglasses, but yeah, I'm a sunglass guy. So,
Okay.
and there's this guy who used to play in the NFL. I'm forgetting his name, but he's like a friend of a friend who will periodically come to the show with like multi-thousand-dollar like glasses, and he'll like just like periodically give us
Wow.
glasses. I'm like, yo, this is wild. Actually, I feel like I don't reach out to him enough. He's always encouraging us, so yeah. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Besides him, do you pop into sunglass huts or are you going online? Like how do you know if they fit right and everything?
I will pop into a sunglass hut. I will pop into an Oliver People store. I will pop into a kiosk situation at an airport. It's just fun, man. Like since we've started touring, like from the very beginning with this band, one thing that I can look back on that the band has used as a way to kind of fellowship kind of thing,
Hmm.
it has been like through kind of like shopping. Like we used to love going to like vintage stores
Hmm.
together and whatnot. And so it would always be kind of interesting to see how different people would piece together, what we would wear. Because when you're on tour, it's kind of rough, man. You can't bring your entire closet, so you kind of have to
Hmm.
like, make do with what you have and, get creative. So it's always nice to see, how each individual expresses themselves through their external aesthetic.
Yeah. Well, something else that you did kind of before you got into the Black Pumas and doing your own thing before that, you did musical theater, right? So I was curious, did you have any big roles through the years or?
Yeah, man, I did. I really loved doing, musical theater for a while there. I did a play in college that was a Christmas Carol. That was probably my most fun gig because I felt the most mature that
Mm.
I'd ever been as far as being a performing artist is, in like the acting world.
Mm.
And so that was my favorite situation. Embarrassingly enough, though, I don't really remember the role that I played. I think I was Tiny Tim's dad, whatever, you know.
Held him up in the window.
Yeah, exactly. It was, but it was really fun, man. Like I loved, the theater community is just so dope, right? Like
Hmm.
it's a community like unlike any other. There's so much warmth, there's so much support, there's so much openness. The people are, not as inhibited as
Hmm.
your standard passerby. So yeah. So yeah, that was my favorite time being as part of the theater. I did a few plays in high school, and am honestly thinking about getting back into it.
Mm.
Maybe from the basis that is writing some jokes and doing some stand up again. I've
Wow.
done that a few times, and for the most part, I've succeeded. The last time I did a stand up situation, I completely bombed. I was so Man, I was never like so embarrassed performing, but it's like the most liberating thing to allow the ego to kind of be broken down
Mm.
to then figure out ways to express yourself without any unnecessary boundaries, So yeah, I miss the theater. It's cool.
Well, speaking of that in comedy, Austin, Texas is kind of a one-stop shop. You get your music, you can go to the comedy mothership, the Joe Rogan Club. So there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, the comedy scene is completely here and it's alive and it's well. I mean, I've only done like a couple shows here. I saw Dave Chappelle a
Nice.
while ago. There's this new guy, Tony Baker, who's really funny. I saw here. Yeah, I could get out more. I could get out to more shows and do it a bit more. It's the coolest thing, and comedians are always like they're always the coolest down to earth individuals. They're like either like don't talk to me at all because comedians can be like rough around the edges
Yeah.
for sure. But for the most part, my experiences have always been very like just open and warm with comedians. It's
Awesome.
nice. So it's nice to kind of have that here. I feel like Austin could use a little bit of that excitement. So
Yeah.
I'm happy about that.
Well, speaking of Austin, when I think of Austin, Texas, I think of Gary Clark Jr. He's one of my favorites. And I don't know if you know him, or I just had his drummer on, though, Johnny Radalat, recently, and had some great things to talk about the music scene there. So I don't know, are you close
Nice.
with Gary at all, or?
I met Gary a few times. I'm definitely like 1 degree removed from his group of like people that he hangs out with.
Mm.
I remember like the first Grammys that we did. I was I did a Questlove pre-Grammy party where Gary was performing and Black Pumas performed. And so like that's one thing I love about Austin is that like Gary kind of came before me, but there's still the connectivity that feels like a peer like connectivity, like we maybe go to the same school, and so there's just the engagement that happens before the performances where I see Gary, we say what's up because we had ran into each other and are friendly with each other, and I was like, hey man, like check out this new idea, and so
Mm.
I show him like a demo of something and he's asking me questions about, what was the synthesizer I was using to where I recorded it. And yeah, just, the community here is pretty tight. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Gary at the coffee shop. Like when I'm
Uh,
done with this interview, I could go to the coffee shop and maybe run into somebody like that.
you just look for the 6'5" guy, right? And there he is.
There is, man. Yeah, it's hard to miss. Hard to miss. Cool guy.
Well, one thing I learned about you, and it's not so much a mystery anymore, but before you were in the Pumas, you would do something called busking, and I didn't know there was a term for that. And I know you played a lot at the Santa Monica Pier, right? So one thing you've mentioned in the past was when each day would start, they'd pull names out of the fishbowl, right? So I was curious if they didn't pull your name, where would you play? Did you have like a backup strategy of a good location?
Yeah, man. I mean, I was all over the place from like the boardwalk to the subway. Like the subway was like maybe the first place I
Mm.
was trying to bust, and that's like the hardest place to do it, I feel, from what I can remember. Um, I bust for maybe about 6 months. Nova.
I have a balancing act too. There's dogs in the backyard right now. I'm hoping they don't bark.
Okay, okay, cool. Yeah, I just feel like she just wants attention. So,
Oh, if you want, you could have her in. I don't care. Whatever's easier for you.
yeah, let's see.
Oh,
For
there we go.
sure. This is
There's Nova.
Nova.
Nova,
Yeah,
how are
she's
you?
like playing with her other buddy who's here. So, yeah, we are just kicking it. Yeah, so
You've probably never done
um
an interview like this, right? This is good.
oh man, we've gotten a couple in, but she loses interest really quick, so
Oh,
we'll
okay.
see. Yeah, man. I mean, that was the wildest thing because I had no idea that to busk in California would include, following such a pretty strict like system. And so I met a couple of guys who took me in, who had been doing it for a while. They were like, "Hey, man, this is what you got to do. You got to get a permit, and
Mm.
if you're busking on the Santa Monica Pier, this is kind of how it works." And so it like kind of works on like a lottery system. So we would go every day and put our names in the fishbowl at the first meeting pretty early in the morning. And they would draw names for all of the spots on the Santa Monica Pier for 3 times out of the day that we would be allowed to perform. And so we would do that on a daily basis for 3 hour slots, 3 times a day,
Mm.
So yeah, I feel like that was definitely where I really built up a lot of my stamina to be able to kind of like sing as beautifully and as loud and as with a razor sharp presentation as possible. And um I feel like it was also a place where I learned how to have a good attitude about just performing without any expectations.
Mm. Well, do you feel most at home then playing an acoustic guitar? Is that kind of just stripped down? Does that feel best for you?
Man, I think that's, it's definitely how I kind of started. But even while I was starting that, I had family who really, really loved to kind of play around in Fruity Loops, which is a recording DAW. And, so I would make, instrumentals when I was starting out as well that I feel like my instrument of choice is the actual muscle that
Mm.
is creative. I can make anything on anything. I feel, right? While guitar is something that I feel most intimate with as far
Mm.
as tools go
Okay.
to be creative in. So like these days, like for this last for the record, I wrote a lot of the songs and started a lot of the vibes on keys, whether it was an acoustic piano or a Juno 6 synthesizer. Yeah, I mean, give me anything from a drum loop to, a hollowed body guitar plugged straight into the board, or, a synthesizer that where I can kind of like figure out a loop of a situation that I want to kind of vibe on. I really don't have a system. I just do it. I don't. It might sound
Yeah.
pretentious, but it's just
Kind of
I
feel.
don't really. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I just feel it out and I do it. I know it feels good, and that's what I try to present myself in a way that is vibrating and resonating with what makes me feel good. Yeah.
Well, what's the writing process like for you then? Do you kind of hum something or do the words come first? And do you use your iPhone voice memo recorder to kind of get ideas down?
Oh man, you know it. You know it, dude. I mean, I've got a ton of voice memo ideas. I love to make the music first,
Hmm.
generally. I love to, figure out different emulations of waves. I just started learning kind of like a few years ago in writing this album, learning how to manipulate waves on the Juno 6, and I had a lot of fun with that. And so I would maybe I'd figure out, a really great sound that I liked. I would turn on the arpeggiator. I would like hold, I could like hold a chord in place in order to be able to put the synthesizer down and pick up an acoustic guitar and sing just to have another element. And so it's always for me right now at this junction from writing most of my songs on an acoustic guitar and then performing them, I'm layering my ideas in a very much more expansive way with a few more tools this time around. And I was kind of like thrown to the wolves in figuring that out, in order to delegate responsibilities and roles to an entire band. So yeah, it was a really interesting growing situation for me this last time around.
Well, your kind of right hand man, Adrian Quesada, in the band. It's kind of crazy to think you guys. I mean, lots of hard work got you to this point, but you've still only known each other for like 6 years, right? It's got to be kind of wild.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's been a little wild. It's been a little while, and it's just yeah. I mean, yeah, it is wild. What do you want to know about it?
Oh yeah, well, I'm just wondering if it's kind of went by in a blink of an eye, because you've been through a lot. You had a couple albums, some tours, and if you met him when you were busking and traveling around solo, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, do you think it would have worked out the same?
If I met him while I was busking?
Yeah, like maybe when you're if you kind of bumped into each other, because I think a friend kind of introduced you, right? Do you think it still would have worked out, or was it kind of the right moment in life because of what you'd been through, maybe?
Yeah, man. I mean, I feel like something was gonna happen, man. I met so many people busking. There was always something. I ran into a couple of guys who came from a music festival and like really took to my energy, invited me to a party the night that I was busking, like after I was busking. And I met a lot of my like still friends now who are, interconnected with the industry here. From like Yayo Sanchez, who's like Kiss guy, right? He gets on stage with the Foo Fighters and
Yeah.
rips this face melting solo. Say, look, that guy I met like when I was busking, and he's like,
Wow.
hey man, I want you to meet my boss or whatever. And he introduces me to Frenchie Smith, I believe his name is, out of where Yayo used to record quite a bit at the Bubble here in Austin, to meeting other people at the same situation who I'm still friends with, to busking during South by and meeting like the senior A&R to Atlantic Records who missed his showcase because he wanted to be able to like get some footage of me in order to send to some of his you know peers, to then like set something up between me and another potential manager type for myself. So while that situation didn't work out for me, I just it would have just happened. I mean, I just believe, I have so much faith in like optimist. I'm just such an optimist, about what I've been able to attract just standing on a street corner. So, for that I'm really also thankful. But yeah, so yeah, I do feel like it would have worked out. But like as far as individually meeting Adrian on the street, I don't know that Adrian is the kind of guy who like stops to listen to someone busking on the street. No
Hmm.
offense to him. I just feel like we all
Yeah.
have different ways of existing in this world. And I think that meeting him through a mutual friend, within the context of like, having an actual session was the best way to meet someone like that, especially for where I was at that time as well.
Ah,
So
okay.
yeah, the timing is so, of the
Perfect.
essence for sure.
Well, speaking of tour life, you kind of have a bigger band. So, do you guys have two buses, or how do you do it?
Man, we haven't been on tour in a little while. We usually have two buses, one for the artists or musicians and one for our crew.
Hmm.
I imagine that we might have an extra bus this time around. Someone asked me if I wanted my own bus, and which sounds really crazy. So maybe, I might have my own bus, at
You and
some
Nova.
point. And yeah, me and Nova, I might be able to have my own bus, and would love to figure out recording modalities on the bus. We really
Mm,
love doing this, and so man, to have my own bus with a little bit of a studio situation would be pretty rad, actually.
yeah.
Thanks for bringing that
Yeah.
up.
Well, speaking of bus life, I actually won a contest right out of high school, and I got to go on tour with my favorite musician, Lenny Kravitz, for 2 weeks, and it was
No way.
amazing. Yeah, it was like a dream come true, and ever since then, I've always slept really easy, in a moving car. So once you're on tour, do you kind of sleep really well with the road kind of rolling pavement underneath you?
Man, surprisingly, it's really comfortable on the bus,
Yeah.
man. Like I mean, we used to travel in sprinters and,
Mm.
much more uncomfortable situations, but those little nooks of bunks, it's quite comfortable. Like I sleep really well on the bus, but I'm also the guy who could like fall asleep standing up,
Mm.
like when it's time for me to call it, my body does the trick for me
Okay.
regardless, I feel. But the bus is quite comfortable. I haven't heard anyone complaining about that. But I think in conclusion, it's a balance, right?
Mm.
While the buses it can be comfortable, the act of movement
Mm.
that is all the time can be a little bit interesting to kind of get used to. So, but I don't know, man. I mean, I come from like grandparents who are missionaries and, a mom who is a modern dancer and uncles who are artists and
Wow.
have like I've been, quite exposed to just movement. And so I'm really used to it.
Wow. Well, when you're on tour and speaking of the live show, do you like to kind of take a peek out at the crowd before you come out on stage and kind of see the suspense building?
Most definitely, man. I almost love it too much to the degree that it might take away from the mystique because like I'm the guy who like wants to come out during the opening act and stand in the middle of the
Mhm.
audience and like enjoy because for me I just I when I was growing up, I didn't really get to do a lot of live shows and go see a lot of concerts and festivals. Like that's like a really privileged thing to be
Mm.
able to do. I've come to
Yeah.
realize. And so when we're doing shows, it's like also my first time at a festival type of a situation to enjoy it for myself as well, or even in a theater. So I feel like an audience member when I'm getting ready to perform as well. So it's an interesting balance because I want to be out in the audience. I want to meet people. I want to let them know that I'm like really thankful that they came to the show and whatnot. And so sometimes it gets a little out of hand because people want to take pictures and
Yeah.
and tell me about their the travels and getting there. But it's my favorite thing to be able to take in the energy of the audience. One thing I used to do in conclusion is like in smaller shows, like even now if we play a smaller show, I will go from person to person in the line and shake people's hands, introduce myself, thank them for coming to the show, ask them what they're looking forward to, and just really like allow myself to take in the moment
Mm.
with these people because I feel like it makes the performance better. While it's selfless, it's also really selfish for how much actually being interconnected with the audience helps the performance.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. You got to capture the energy.
That's right.
Speaking of concerts, who was your first concert then? Someone's got to be your first, right?
Yeah. So I'll say I'll say it this way. The first concert I bought tickets to,
Mm.
I think I might have been like 21 or something like that. I went to a Black Keys concert in
Nice.
Las Cruces, New Mexico. They were performing at my school's stadium, the Pan Am. And it was like $50 for the ticket. I went with a few friends. I thought it was amazing, and so that was really cool. But you know what? A show situation that surprised me the most, and it wasn't my idea to go, but I had like some pretty stoic friends who had invited me to this thing, and I'm like, yo, like I'm down. You guys, I just have really great times with you guys. I'm super down. I've never done anything like this, and I remember going into the situation and then the Star Spangled Banner playing and like I cried. It was just such a powerful thing. I'm like, wow, this is amazing to be in a stadium like this and to have to have the dramatic surrounds like this whole thing And so the situation ended up being like a WWE wrestling like situation. So it was like it was hilarious being there. But I was surprised at how great it was. I mean, I had a great time. Presentation was crazy, but music wise, my first show was the Black Keys.
Awesome. Love the Black
Yeah.
Keys. Sometimes when I say the Black Pumas, I almost say the Black Keys or vice versa, you know?
Yeah, man. Actually, I almost kind of had an opportunity to collaborate with
Wow. Dan Arbor?
uh yeah, Dan. We have like a mutual friend, John Congleton. He kind of helped with the production on some of my vocal takes
Wow.
in California when I was home, and apparently Dan was in town not too long ago, and they were asking, and but I don't know. I take my time, maybe too much time to like try to figure out what I'm doing upon like committing to something with people because I feel like individually it's important to be able to protect your ideas and the direction that you're going in before before trusting other people. So but with that, I mean, no offense to that guy, but like I love his work, and maybe one day we will get to collaborate,
Yeah.
who knows.
And if so, I can say you heard it here first, you know?
Yeah, you totally could, man.
Well, being on tour, you got to get the passport ready, right? You're going to Europe, Greece, Brazil. So, is there any new places for you, or it's got to be exciting, like the suspense of, okay, when the dates come out, where are we going?
Yeah, man, I got my passport, and thank God, because like I am so bad about keeping and holding on to my passport. It's crazy. Yeah, I got the passport. I just spent my birthday in London, and
Mm.
between London and France with a cousin who I'd invited out to join me for promotion for this album. And so we get to go back to Europe in March. Looking forward to going to some of the Gorilla Studio. We visited the Gorilla
Oh,
Studio where we had a listening session, and that place was just like so magical. Yeah, I mean it's gonna be dope. It's gonna be dope, man. And because the Europeans have just so embraced us in a way that you know, our home hadn't yet, and it was just really magical to uh to find who our day ones were in from their perspective. So we're definitely looking forward to it, and yeah, some of the croissants, get
yeah,
some
no,
good food.
yeah, good food. I'm bummed. I'm missing you. I think in Paris or London by like one day, but I'll
Oh,
be
no
there.
way. Are you going to be in town?
Yeah, I'll be there in March, and I think I'm pulling out a day before you guys pull in or something like that. So I was like, damn it.
What?
Have you ever been to Ronnie Scott's in London though? That's a little jazz club.
No, no,
It's a
I'll
little
write it
class.
down. Ronnie Scott's.
Yeah, Rolling Stones have popped in. It's an amazing place. So you definitely gotta try and get in there if you can.
Yeah,
Uh,
that'll be really cool. If Rolling Stones has
yeah.
approved, for sure, we're down.
But one thing I noticed on one of your acoustic guitars, it says "Live a Great Story." You have a sticker on there that says that, and I thought
Yeah.
it kind of stuck with me when I noticed that. And you're definitely living a great story.
Yeah, man, it's been crazy. Like what is going on? What is Ryan, man? Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. It's been super crazy, and I believe that the story that I am living, while it feels like a cultivation of something that is great, a continuance of a cultivation of of something that's great. I, I'm speechless, man. I feel like it's reflection of the testament that is just
Mm.
believing in yourself, allowing your voice to, resonate from a true place within, in order to like truly connect with other people. Generally, it's just been really cool to, be honest with the love that I have and how that has created situations where I get to meet people who are pretty reflective of
Mm.
this like same tribe, same like-hearted, like-minded people. And apparently for Black Pumas, or through the perspective that is Black Pumas, is quite a bit of the world. So we're just I'm really thankful, man. It does feel like a great story.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, what's the coolest or most surreal compliment you've maybe received from someone you admire? Is anything kind of, there's probably a lot, but
Yeah, man. Before Black Pumas, before I was doing this, maybe when I first started writing material, there was this lady who was she was the first Annie, like on Broadway, whose voice was sampled on that Jay-Z record, "It's a Hard Knock Life."
mm,
That sample. She did some writing with Natasha Bedingfield, Pocket Full of Sunshine. Did a lot of work with Greg Alexander on New Radicals. You got the music in you, don't give up.
yeah.
Like these people are family friends, and so we would go to Greg's like beach house every once in a while, where I started picking up guitar and writing songs. I would send Greg some of my songs, and he'd, send them back and be like, "Hey man, like keep writing, keep sending us stuff. This is great." And Danielle one day, she called me a poet. She's like, "Man, Eric, you're a poet." And she said it with like such conviction that really made me feel like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. So it felt really nice to kind of have some solidified
Yeah.
songwriters in this industry give such high praises. So yeah, that was one of the cool ones.
It's pretty awesome. And
Yeah.
speaking of you singing, you're on tour. I'm really looking forward to seeing Gemini Sun live. I can't wait for that. I think that's going to be great.
Yeah, Rock and Roll Gemini Sun Live will be really dope. They came together while we were in Amsterdam. We went
Mm,
to a really cool studio, and was kind of like that song was born in the spirit of like being on tour and rocking
mm.
on stages for, multitudes. So it should feel that way once we make it to you.
Awesome. Well, last question here. You have such a strong voice, such a powerful voice. I don't know if you're in the band The National at all, but I've seen them in the past. And one of the cool moments he did was he started singing without a microphone. And I'm curious, is that something you've ever done, or is that something you'd ever considered? Because I just thought, especially in like a theater setting, you'd really blow the roof off the place if you ever pulled that move.
He would start singing without a microphone during a performance.
Yeah, he'd kind of get the crowd to quiet down, and then everyone would be quiet, and he'd start singing. And it was really, I just thought of you recently. I thought, man, that would be a perfect moment for you.
World class, world class. I've done that a couple times, and in the name of theater, like that is like such a great move. It's not new, but it'll never get
Mm,
old,
yeah.
right? Where, there wasn't always microphones, and
Mm,
people weren't we didn't always kind of have the space to make chatter during a performance. That like when front men know how to crowd control in that way, it's just the coolest thing. It's so needed to be able to provide a sanctuary of a container for people to really truly allow themselves to listen and enjoy.
yeah,
So,
man.
so hey, you guys,
Is that the other dog?
that's the other dog. They'll go and go and go. I feel like I got to clean up this lady's house right now.
Well, Eric, I know you got a busy day, listening parties and whatnot. Thanks for the time, and can't wait to see you on the road.
Oh my God. Okay. All right, guys.
All right, man. I'll see ya.
Later.